Hello, everybody. Welcome to the No BS Zone. I'm Bernie Goldberg, for those of you who don't know, and I'm here with my good friend in the Rocky Mountain state of Colorado, John Daly. How's it going, John?
Doing well, doing well. It's a nice sunny day out here in Colorado.
Great. So let's talk about the elephant who's sitting on the couch in the living room, tariffs. I don't want to get into whether tariffs are a good thing or a bad thing. Let's just say that sometimes tariffs are good, sometimes they're not so good. I want to talk about the implications of tariffs. Tariffs in the long run, ultimately, are a tax on consumers. I mean, companies that import things into this country or export from their country, yeah, they pay a duty, a tariff uh, when they come into this country, but it's going to be passed on. The increased cost is going to be passed on to consumers. So let's go through a few specifics. Let's say Nike sneakers. They're made mainly in Vietnam, China, and Indonesia. I haven't bought a pair of sneakers in a long time. I have enough to last 10 lifetimes. So yes, let's just use round numbers. Let's say a pair of Nike sneakers cost $100 because they're made in, as I say, Indonesia or Vietnam or China, where wages compared to the United States are very low. If we bring those sneakers manufacturing to Minneapolis, let's say, or San Francisco or Albuquerque, where wages are significantly higher, do you want to pay $200 for that pair of sneakers? Same pair of sneakers, same quality, because they're made here instead of they're made in Asia? I don't. An example I used in a recent off the cuff was a shirt. If a shirt is made in South Asia, Southeast Asia, for $50, do you want to pay $100 because the shirt is made in Cleveland? You may, that's your choice. I don't, because it's the same quality, it's the same shirt, it's the same pair of sneakers. And is that the kind of manufacturing that's going to make America great again? That we have Americans making sneakers and shirts? I don't think so. What about high tech items? iPhones. Well, those would be high paying jobs if they're made here instead of in China and India. Absolutely. That's the kind of manufacturing Donald Trump wants to bring back. I'm all for it, up to a point. Let's use round numbers again. The iPhone cost $1,000 because it's manufactured in India or China. Okay. If it's manufactured in the United States, estimates say it'll be more than 2,000, as much as $3,000. You want to pay $3,000 for an iPhone when you can get the same iPhone for $1,000? Maybe you do. I don't. Okay. Donald Trump promised that on day one he would lower prices. Let's leave aside the day one nonsense. Prices are not going to come down if the tariffs stay in place. We'll get to that in a minute about whether they're going to stay in place or not. Because if they stay in place, Donald Trump's going to pay a price, and so are the Republicans. But we'll get to that in a bit. The people he wants to help, the so-called working class people, they will be punished the most by tariffs because people who make a lot of money can absorb the increased cost a lot better than blue collar people. It's tempting to say, I bought something made in America. I get it. I understand it. But there's a price, literally a price to pay for that. And I'm not sure the American people fully understand that yet. What do you think, John?
No, I think you got everything right there. So the number one, the poll showed before the election, Americans' number one concern, and the reason Donald Trump won was because prices were too high. And now you look at some of these new emerging polls, their number one concern is tariffs because it's making prices too high. So it's people can't say that Donald Trump, kind of pulled one over on the American public. He was campaigning on tariffs. I don't think the American public, by and large, really understood tariffs. I think they're kind of learning now exactly
Exactly the
what
point.
sort of
Exactly
economic
the point.
Yeah. I think it's, people, I get it. People, so many people think in binary thinking. Prices were high under Biden. They weren't high under Trump. Obviously they weren't. It was different environments. You had a pandemic there right in between, but they don't really dig down and understand the economics of it. So, the pendulum swang back to Trump, and he won, and now he's doing what he said. And I'd say on steroids, he's doing what he said. I don't think during the campaign trail he ever talked about, tariffing. I'll say indiscriminately. People say reciprocal. No, it's not. Almost 200 countries. So there's nothing really reciprocal about it either. They keep saying that. Australia doesn't tariff us at all, and we still slapped a 10% tariff on them. That island of penguins that has been talked about a lot. They obviously were not tariffing the United States, and they got slapped with the 10%. So it's not a good situation. It's I tried to do my part during the election to kind of spell out. I had an economist on talk about these different threats with tariffs, but again, I'm just one person. There wasn't a big explainer for the American public. There really can't be in this day and age, and that's what we're dealing with now.
There was a segment on Fox News this week in the morning. One of their morning hosts on Fox and Friends, went to a diner in a suburb of New York, Long Island, where it's Trump country. And he went around to different people eating breakfast and said, what do you think of, I mean, this is supposed to be information and journalism. It's just a disgrace. But he said, what do you think of Donald Trump? What kind of job do you think he's doing? And you know what the answer is going to be. So everybody he interviewed said, Donald Trump's doing a great job, just a great job. Okay, they're entitled to that opinion. I have no problem with that. Those are the people, blue collar people, that I'm not sure understand that sooner or later, probably sooner, they're going to be paying more for a whole bunch of things that they buy. I don't know if they understand that. And one more thing. Donald Trump likes to surround himself by yes men and yes women. He likes flatterers. If you flatter him, you're in the inner circle. When he rolled out that Liberation Day tariffs, which turned out to be Obliteration Day, the stock market tanked almost 1,700 points that day, the Dow Jones average. Did anybody in that inner circle say, Mr. President, sir, I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea the way you're rolling it out. Apparently, nobody did. And people in power, especially, need people who don't agree with them all the time, because you get in trouble when people agree with you all the time. And Donald Trump surrounds himself with the kind of people who flatter him. He loves that, but it's not good for him. Before we move on to the political implications, you could jump in and observe that, John, if you would.
No, I think that's right. And people point to a lot of successes in his first term. We had a good economy for the first 3 years. He had surrounded himself with people who would push back, who would do things differently than what he has been talking about with tariffs and other things for a very long time. We had, in many senses, traditional Republicans around him. He had a lot of traditional Republicans in Congress. Paul Ryan was the author of that tax bill that I think is not universally praised on the right, even by MAGA people, even though they give complete credit to Trump on it. But he had people doing smart things. He had people giving him good advice, and that's by design, not what we're seeing this time. He prioritized people kissing up to him, as far as who's going to be in his administration. If you didn't, you had to deny the election of 2020. You had to if there were, criticisms out there online of Donald Trump, that was a factor in not allowing you into his administration. I think something like 70% of the Republicans in Congress came in after Trump entered politics or at the same time. So a lot of the traditional people, old school fiscal conservatives, they're gone now. They've been primaried out of office. They've been irritated out of office, out of running again. So it's a different Republican Party now, and there's very few people pushing back on Donald Trump, and that's not to the benefit of America. That's not to the benefit of Trump. If he had more people in the party pushing back on him, I think he'd be doing a better job. But people are afraid to step up and say this doesn't make any sense. This is economically incoherent. What you're doing, but you know that's where we're at, unfortunately.
For the MAGA people in our audience, this is not a Trump bashing segment. This is a segment about the implications of what Donald Trump is doing. And the implications are there's a price to pay for his tariffs. And I think the price to pay will not be good for Americans. It won't be good for Donald Trump in particular. And it won't be good for him in a political sense. Just before we move on, let me emphasize that I think Donald Trump has done more good things and bad things in a month than Joe Biden did in 4 years. The books are coming out now saying Joe Biden was not playing with a full deck, at least towards the end of his presidency. It's a disgrace that he wanted to run again. It was a disgrace that people in journalism kept it a secret until now. It was a disgrace that his inner circle cared more about their jobs and the President Biden than they cared about the American people. So please understand, neither John nor I are fans of Joe Biden, and we criticize Donald Trump when we think he's doing things that are not in his best interest or the country's best interest. All right, let's move on. And by the way, I think Donald Trump, he may not be a stable genius, but he's smart enough to know that if he doesn't change course, he will pay a big political price. The midterms, I don't like talking about things that are going to happen in 18 months, but in 18 months, there are going to be midterm elections. If he doesn't change course, and if he changes course too late, and if he changes course and it doesn't matter, we're going to slide into a recession. And that would be very bad for Donald Trump and for the Republican Party writ large. For Donald Trump, it'll be bad because his presidency will effectively be over. He will get nothing through a Democratic House. And he'll be a lame duck and he'll sit around 2 years and complain about everything. But it won't be good for the Republican Party as a whole either. If they lose the House, Democrats will call the shots. I'm not making a prediction about what I'm about to say. I'm making an observation. But impeachment won't be off the table. Just that's the only reason I'm hesitating, because I don't want people to say Bernie Goldberg is predicting that Donald Trump will be impeached. I'm saying it's not off the table. It's not out of the question. High crimes and misdemeanors, he doesn't have to commit them. He has done enough things and he will continue to do enough things that will lead Democrats to say, well, he did this, he did that. That's an impeachable offense. And do I think they'll impeach him? I think there's a chance they'll impeach him. I don't think it's a long shot, actually. I'm curious as to what you think, John. I
So
think the progressives who will love to impeach him will push the moderate wing of the party into a position where they may have to do it. Again, it's not a prediction, but it's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, just sort of the politics of it. You had started off by you talking about how this could hurt Donald Trump politically. I I don't think he cares that much about getting hurt politically at this point. He's a lame duck president. It's a second term. I don't think he cares even that much about what he can get done with the help of Congress. I think he's very focused on the executive stuff, but I don't think he cares about the politics. I don't think he clearly doesn't care about maintaining allies, and I don't think he cares about the electoral prospects of other Republicans. I don't think he ever really has. I think he's always seen the Republican Party where his real power is in primaries, basically getting the people that kiss up to him, past their primaries, that sort of thing. But I really think, and I said this many times throughout the election, that his primary motivator for running for office again was to get out of the legal trouble that he was in. I think which he effectively did. So now I honestly think it's about whatever he feels like doing when he wakes up in the morning. It's sort of a you only live once YOLO presidency, where I think he's seen what he can get away with, and so he's doing things like going after, he's doing his retribution, he's going after political opponents, he's trying to put into place his trade war, which he's been talking about, tariffs since the 1980s. I think he's just kind of doing whatever. I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares if the Democrats take back Congress. I mean, they can do certain things. He'll probably care if they try to impeach him, and I think you're probably right. I think the chances are pretty good. It's impeachment is always up to the discretion of Congress, and it's not about legality. And I think there are easy arguments they can make in this term that Trump is abusing his power. And that's really all the argument they really need to make in order to impeach him. So I think the Democrats are looking very good for the midterms. Even if Trump, with these tariffs, he's going back and forth. He threatens them for a month, then he pulls back, threatens really bad ones, then he pulls back for 90 days. He takes tariffs off of certain items and puts them on other items. His administration's labeling some of them as temporary, some of them as permanent. It changes on day by day. All of that stuff, even if he doesn't 90 days from now really enforce all of these huge tariffs that sent the stock market stumbling way down a couple weeks ago, I think the damage is a lot of damage is done. The financial firms, the major ones, are still right now predicting likely a recession later this year. So I don't think it's going to
And
be.
John, you don't think Donald Trump cares about looking like a loser?
Well, he doesn't want to look like a loser, but he does things all the time that make him look like a loser. I mean, it's
That's why I can't believe he's going to leave this in place, and we're going to go forward in as we've gone in the past month. Since Liberation Day, whatever it is, past 2 weeks or whatever. He's going to do something different. Bill O'Reilly was on TV this week, and he said, I'm just quoting Bill. He said he talked to Donald Trump. He said, I've known him for 35 years. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, he has never misled me. Okay? He's never told me something that didn't turn out to be the case. That's what Bill said.
okay.
And he
That's
said, and
that's
he said,
nice. Everybody else has been misled on
yeah,
certain
that's
things.
okay. But in other words, whatever he tells Bill has come to pass, according to.
Okay.
And Bill said he told him that something's going to happen very soon that's going to turn things around. I believe that because if something doesn't happen very soon that turns things around, these bad things are going to happen. We'll slide into a recession. It'll be Donald Trump's recession. Democrats will take the House in the midterms. That'll be on Donald Trump. If impeachment comes about, it'll be something he brought on by letting Democrats take the House. I just don't think, despite all we're saying, that things are going to remain the same. I don't think he's going to look like a loser because that's the one thing he won't allow to happen. That's why I think things will change. You're smiling, and I'm
Well,
wondering why.
I want to make it clear, based on what I said, I'm not saying that 90 days from now he's going to do exactly what he did just a few days ago and reinstitute all those. No, I think my point is that he's causing all this chaos. I don't think he even really appreciates how much chaos is happening. You have these major companies that over the past few months have had to cancel all of these orders and then reorder and then cancel again, trying to figure out how to navigate this current situation. He's introduced all kinds of uncertainty, and I think people are underestimating the damage that's already been caused. Even if tomorrow he were to say, "Okay, I'm done with this tariff stuff," which I don't think he's going to do. I think he's going to play this out for a while longer. I think the tariffs that are currently in place are hurting us. He took back the big ones, a few weeks ago, but the ones that are currently exist that he hasn't rolled back, those are hurting us. So I think I'm sure Trump is confident all is going to be good on that front, but I don't, none of this stuff makes sense. And I don't think it will make sense. I don't think, uh, once he comes out and whatever this big surprise is that he told Bill O'Reilly, I don't think that's going to make everything better at all. So,
If it makes the stock market go up instead of down, it'll make things better, because
right.
he follows the stock market very closely. It's a gauge that says whether he's doing a good job or a bad job in his mind. And I said there's a price to pay. There's an economic price to pay, there's a political price to pay, but there's also a price to pay among our allies. He's turned allies into adversaries. If people don't, trust is an important commodity. When you lose trust, you've lost a lot. And if our friends, we're not talking about China now, we're not talking about Iran, we're not talking about Russia. If our friends don't trust us and say he changes his mind, he comes after us in the same way he goes after China, instead of aligning all his friends to go after China altogether. Instead of doing that, he goes after China, he goes after Europe, he goes after Canada. If he's lost the trust of our allies, that's a big, big price to pay for his reckless initial policy. And that's why I think things will change. I'm not in the prediction business, but I'm telling you within 30 days, something big is going to happen. I think it'll make a difference with the stock market. You're not so sure. I'm good.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it can make a difference with the stock market. Good news can always make a difference. That's it. Sort of cracked me up because when Trump announced all those huge tariffs, and I think over just a few days the Dow Jones dropped something like 4,000, and then when he came out and announced that 90-day suspension of those tariffs, things shot back up about 2,000, and the administration took enormous. It was like the biggest Dow jump in a day or something like that, and they were all congratulating themselves. I'm like, wait a minute, you just knocked it down 4,000. You repealed what knocked it down. Now it's up 2,000. You guys are doing a victory lap over this. It just stuff like that. So yeah, there are announcements one can make that will jump the stock market. But yeah, my argument is that across the economy and with our allies, you brought up just now, that's a very good point. I mean, our allies are so much less trusting of us than they previously were, and they're not going to be as likely to help us when we need it, not be as likely to enter partnerships with us because they don't trust us at this point. So I think there's a lot of lasting damage, regardless of what this big announcement is within the next 30 days.
Final point to our MAGA friends. Joe Biden's presidency was a disaster. Are you happy now? Are you happy? Joe
Well,
Biden, I think John probably agrees with me.
yes,
Jump in, John, but I just want you to know this is not, we criticize Trump, we criticize Biden when we think they deserve it, because our only goal is to give our honest opinions, and that's what they are, opinions, but they're based on facts to our audience. Some like it, some don't. That's all we can do. Anything else?
yeah. Sorry.
No,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was calling the Biden presidency a failed presidency, starting with the Afghanistan withdrawal. I mean, we called them out on the border stuff, the immigration stuff. Obviously, we were saying he shouldn't be president, based on his mental decline. So it's funny. I get it because I talk about Trump more often than I talk about Biden because I care about the right more than I do. I think the right has more potential to turn things around, and I think Trump gets in the way of a lot of it. So I do talk about that, but it's yeah, I think it's important for people to police their own sides of the political aisle. So I do that.
Hey, John, before we go, tell them what you told me before we started this conversation about the person who said, I'm not subscribing anymore. Just tell that story very briefly.
Sure, sure. No, yeah, and I see this from time to time, but it's when someone unsubscribes from our site, they can sometimes leave a comment to explain why they unsubscribe. So we read those because we think there's some valid criticism in there. But it cracks me up because we had someone recently who said Bernie broke my heart. He's a liberal now, and that always kills me because Donald Trump, I think people would admit he's not a conservative. He has gone further and further left. We're looking at central planning right now with all these tariffs. I mean, this is Bernie Sanders stuff.
Exactly.
But when we criticize it, we're the liberals. Like, no, like if you guys are defending central planning and tariffs and all these barriers to business, the taking an axe to free trade, you guys are the libs, the people that are defending that, not Bernie and I, who are criticizing these things for happening.
Final word goes to John Daly. Thanks, everybody. Listen, we need your help. I say this all the time, and you just ignore me. I'm getting a little annoyed with all of you. Tell your friends. Get a subscription for somebody you like, somebody you don't like, and you want to drive crazy. Just get a subscription for your father, your mother, your brother, your sister. We need more people listening to us. The more people we have, the better the conversation is for all of us. Thank you. That's it. That's it for this week's No BS Zone. Hope you liked it. We'll see you next time.